influencing the universities. It's the best way to transform a society.
Well, yes, the universities have been captured a long, long time ago. I mean, really, when with MLK and JFK bringing it on the heels of it's all about civil rights, okay, they realized that the best way to overthrow a government is you've got to get a hold of the universities, and you have to have these massive movements, especially, ones like student Democrats for Socialist Society, and there's so many militia groups like Black Panthers, Weather Underground. I mean, all of these, again, came in under, after the MLK, JFK stuff. And so it's important to understand that every news agency and every university and every scholar is going to tell you that the MLK files are not showing us anything new. And they rip all over the FBI for surveilling King, except the FBI had good reason to surveil King. But then yet the King family statement was the MLK family, including his children, Martin Luther King III and Bernice King, have strongly opposed the release. Why? Why? Unless you know that they rightfully surveilled him. No, they want to try to make out like the FBI made all this up about King. No, they didn't. And King showed by his very deeds, Mrs. Bernice King, he showed by his very deeds, if he could, with the amount of influence and movement he had in this country and the fundraising he did for African students to give them food, to give them a place to stay so they could get their education here. That kind of influence that man had, he could have raised people out of the ghettos. But instead of doing that for the Black Americans, he fundraised with Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, Jackie Robinson, all of them, to fundraise for Black Africans to come here, while using the Black Americans to go do some bullshit marching in Washington and camping until demands were met that Martin Luther King Jr. was making. He had the ability with his influence and those bullshit actors, okay, and Hollywood people, to have been fundraising for the ghettos and helping them. Instead, he used those people. That's why you didn't want it released. Let's just be honest. In this, it states in here that there were all these demonstrations, and see, King, even though he was calling for civil disobedience, he wanted to paralyze the nation, paralyze everything until his demands were met. That is overthrowing your Constitution. So he was not on the side of Americans, and if he was, his deeds would have shown it, because he would have told Tom Mboya, the politician out of Kenya, look, I'm advocating for the civil rights for Black Americans. Instead, all of his hard work seemed to be, and raising money, was for Black Africans, not Black Americans. But there's furthermore, he was making demands. I mean, that's what this is about. And they just want to try to discredit the intelligence agencies in every way, and it's disgraceful because King does not have he has a track record in here, and this is too documented for you to say this is all made up. And yet no news agency, no university, nobody wants to talk about this. Does that not strike anybody as odd? Because they say, oh, it's all just rehashing. No, it's not. If any of those podcasters, if any of those news agencies, if any of those universities gave a shit about America, gave a shit about you as an American, they would be saying, no, it's very important to put these dots together. And what are those dots? It's that we're going to overthrow America. We're going to use the universities to do it. We're going to use militia groups like the Black Panthers. We're going to use the black community, but we don't care about any Americans, no matter what color their skin is. We just want to overthrow their Constitution. If any of them had any moral compass, that's what they'd be saying. But of course they won't do that. Instead, they'll carry on about how Israel's the worst country in the world and is genociding Palestinians. So do you see who they are? The same people that were pulling their bullshit back here. Well, you just have different faces now doing it, and a ton of them have podcasters. Yeah, like good old Tucker Carlson. And who's he going to have on? I guess Friday is the Jew hater herself, Candace Owens, as if our country has to be subjected to more of their propaganda bullshit. So, what this says is these are very detailed records, on and on, page after page, okay? Talking about Columbia University, all of these people involved in this effort that they were calling civil rights, yet were making demands. Like, it's one thing, you have the right to the First Amendment, you have the right for your voice to be heard, you have a right to, protest against something you don't like your government doing. But King, especially with the huge national following he had, was making demands. He was making demands. Okay? I mean, like here in this second part, King reportedly voiced his concern over the failure of the 90th Congress to pass meaningful civil rights legislation during the first session, and stated that the time had come for civil rights advocates to camp right in Washington. That's what led, and then above that, that's what it's talking about with the protest with the camp in. So that's my issue with King, is that he used black Americans to say, we're going to bus you to Washington and we're going to build these tents and we want to, because it literally says in here that he talked about wanting to, right here, paralyzing demonstrations, prolonged city paralyzing demonstrations, wanting to halt all activity. That's overthrowing the government. It is. Using demonstrations to paralyze, prolong demonstrations to paralyze parts of the government. That is an overthrowing of the Constitution. That's going way beyond your rights. So the fact is, the King family doesn't want to admit that the truth of the matter is MLK cared more about Kenya Africans, okay, than he cared about American black people. He fundraised all with Hollywood to serve Africans, not Americans, but he used Americans to start making demands on Washington. Why is nobody talking about that today? Because you still see them at it. They're still at it. It's just now they're using their podcasts to do it. The main mission of Maboya, Tom Maboya, politician out of Kenya back then, the main mission of Maboya's U.S. tour was to begin fundraising and gaining support for his student airlift program. The program allowed African students the chance to study at American universities. So do you see why there's a problem with MLK? That's my issue. That's my issue. So the King family can carry on all they want, okay, about his legacy. But his legacy shows that his mission was to help it was to help Africans more than it was to help black Americans. And if you look on this paragraph below, it says Columbia University will be the site for an international assembly of revolutionary student movements. It is being sponsored by the Columbia Strike Coordinating Committee. So whenever anybody, I don't care if it's news, the universities, some scholar, or these podcasters say there's nothing new to be learned in the MLK files, bullshit. They're saying that because they want to deflect you from it while they continue to pull the same tactics that are talked about in the MLK files that Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, all of these podcasters are doing, which is look over here and not over there.